Will Goulet ever make a Goulet flex nib or make a gold nib? Make a gold Goulet nib, not gold plated, but like an actual gold nib. So this is kind of two different things. The first one I will say is just the regular gold nib. We could do that anytime. We really could, because Jowo is our nib manufacturer. Jowo is a very popular German nib manufacturer that you may know if you know Edison pens. They supply Edison with Jowo nibs as well. And we actually sell Edison 18 karat gold nibs. You can put them on, a lot of Goulet pens. It's a number 6 nib, just like our Goulet nibs are. So you can actually put this on all the same things. So it just has the Edison logo on it. So for us, it's like, okay, should we carry our own 18 karat nib with the Goulet logo on it in addition to the Edison ones? We sell some Edison gold nibs, not a ton, and honestly, when it comes to doing the engraving and all that kind of stuff, the minimums it's a bit of an investment. You know, the steel nibs is one thing, but the gold nibs, it's expensive. You know, we'd end up charging around the same price as we do for the Edison one, so it's $125 for just the nib unit, and that's fine. Like, it costs what it costs, but it's steep, you know what I mean? Like, you can almost buy a whole other pen, like a whole other gold nib pen for that price almost. You know, something like a Lamy 2000 or a Vanishing Point. So it gets kind of pricey. So it's because we already have that Edison nib option, it's just not quite as obvious to us. It's not like it's such an easy, obvious opportunity for us. Yes, it would seem kind of cool to have another nib with our logo on it, but it's going to be a very similar nib. So I don't know, maybe, I'm not going to say that it's not a possibility, because we could do it relatively easily. It's just an investment on our part. It hasn't been so obvious to us that we did that. So the other part of it is the flex nib. The flex nib's a little more complicated. There are a lot more manufacturers that are coming out with flex nibs now, and that's really kind of cool. I've seen, obviously Noodler's has it. You have soft nibs that I've seen in Pilot. I've seen them in Sailor and Platinum. A lot of the Japanese companies, Omos had a flexible nib back when they were around. Aurora is now coming out with a flex nib, which I will say I just got to test one like a couple hours ago. Pretty legit, I gotta say. So that's kind of new. They're actually just kind of announcing that this week. And then who else has got one? Stipula is kind of reviving the flex nib as well. They've got kind of a cool story. They found some old school nib manufacturing equipment from the 50s that was in this guy's basement in Italy, and they found the equipment and been refurbishing it the last couple of years, and so now they're making old school vintage flex nibs. So that's kind of cool. So there's definitely flex nibs that are starting to come about, but I can say from talking to people in the pen industry, when it comes to manufacturing these flex nibs, it's hard. Especially if you're talking about the 14 karat gold nibs with the added flex and stuff like that. It gets very difficult because of the amount of expertise and labor that's involved. So I know actually Edison has worked with Richard Binder. I know not available through retailers like us, because just the economics don't work out, and the economy of scale is just not there. But I know that Edison directly has sold signature line pens with nibs that have had flex added from Richard Binder, and like Spencerian flex nibs that have been pretty legit. I've seen one of those in person before, and it's pretty astounding how they work, but it's expensive. You know what I mean? The labor that's involved in doing that. First off, you have to buy a gold nib anyway, so it's $125 right there, and then you have to pay for the additional labor on top of that, which is probably somewhere in the $40 to $80 range, depending on the nibmeister and who's kind of doing it. So you're talking right off the bat $150 to $200 just for the nib to get a gold flex nib without it, and then it's that gets pretty pricey. So right out the gate, it kind of prices it out of most people's range, and then just having someone with the expertise to be able to do them is kind of challenging. So I don't know how, I'm not going to say it's not possible that we couldn't add one in the future. It's just because it's so kind of piecing all these different parts together and then having to jump through a lot of hoops and having it be pretty expensive to offer it. It's just not going to be as straightforward as you would probably hope for us to be able to offer something like that regularly. But is it something longer term that we could look to develop more? Yeah, probably. It's just not going to be immediate. So I'm excited about the opportunity of maybe getting there someday, but this is not anything that we're going to have, practically speaking, in 2017 probably.